Hello, everyone. I'm Chase Lee reporting for DallasMoviescreens.com, and I got another movie to review for you guys, and that would be T2, no, not Terminator 2 Judgment Day, T2 Trainspotting. This is the sequel, 20 years in the making, from the 1996 cult classic original Trainspotting from director Danny Boyle, and this film pretty much was a cult classic as soon as it came out. Usually films about drug addiction are, heavy with drama, and like people don't want to deal with all that depressing stuff, right? Well, Trainspotting came out and it was more of like a darkly comedic look at drug addiction while still having heart and soul to it, and while still having the emotional depth you would need for someone fighting addiction. So it was one of those things where it was a lightning in a bottle, and it just kind of came out of nowhere, and people love it to this day. So this sequel had a lot to live up to. So how was it? It was a little disappointing. So for me, I am a pretty big fan of the original Trainspotting. I really enjoy it quite a bit. It was one of my first Danny Boyle films I ever watched. It kind of introduced me to his unique kind of directing style and how kind of off the beaten path it was from a normal director, and trying, kind of experimental things with cinematography and editing and music and stuff. And I thought that really kind of gelled well with this kind of type of universe of people high on heroin. I thought that kind of was a nice melding of director and subject matter. So I really like Trainspotting quite a bit. I was looking forward to the sequel. I was just curious. I wasn't like super excited, but I was curious to see what they would do 20 years later with these characters. So like I said, I was a little disappointed. So let's get real and break this down. Let's start with the writing and directing, because I think this is where it falls apart the most. As far as the pros for the directing, I will say this. As long as I've been watching Danny Boyle films, whether it be Trainspotting, 28 Days Later, Sunshine, Slumdog, 127 Hours, Steve Jobs, the guy always puts his stamps on his movies. You know that he directed that film when you watch the way he shoots his films, or the way he has a certain visual aesthetic, or the way he edits his films, and the way he adapts music into his films. It's always just very unique and kind of off center a little bit. There's always something kind of off in a good way about the way he films and the way he edits his films. He might use Dutch angles, or shoving characters far to the left of the screen, right of the screen, and use interesting tracking shots and fast pans. Like, it's just a mix of a bunch of different things, but it never feels like it's jumbled or anything. It always feels like it's cohesive in this kind of like manic type of filmmaking, and just it works for this type of environment. So the pros are that Danny Boyle always knows how to put his stamp, his unique stamp, on his films. This one's no different. Let's get into the cons. As far as the actual story goes, I thought it was kind of pointless. I also thought there was really nothing more added to these characters 20 years later, and I honestly didn't care about any of them except for Spud. His storyline was really good and kind of fleshed out and stuff, and I really kind of felt for him throughout the film. But everyone else, I didn't really feel any type of emotional weight to anything that these characters were saying. It was just kind of like they were going through the motions. I didn't really care about what they were doing, and there was a lot of kind of subplots that were kind of introduced, but then just kind of blown away in the wind, never talked about again, or just not really developed that well. And also, everyone's got their own agenda in the film, and that's not a problem, right? But when you have like Franco that has his drive to do his thing, you have Renton doing his thing, and Spud, and then Begbie and stuff. A lot of them have different tones, and it almost feels like separate movies. So there's multiple storylines going at once, and when it's jumping around from character to character, it never feels like it's flowing in the same movie. It always feels like it's jumping to a separate movie, and it's kind of jarring a little bit. Like, there are some times where it's like this kind of deep, like, philosophical scene, and then it'll just jump into something that's almost like a straight up like horror thriller, and it's like, that doesn't really mix well with this. Like, with the first film, you have like this dark comedic edge to these people who they're kind of like anti-heroes. Like, you kind of want to you want to love them, but you know that they're kind of like morally flawed, and it's just that's the kind of appeal to this movie and these characters. I never felt once like I was rooting for anyone to like get better or not take the drugs or whatnot. It's I don't know. I just didn't really feel that connection emotionally towards any of these characters at all, and I just felt like there was too many things going on at once. Is that it for that section? I believe so. So the writing itself is where I have the most kind of cons with this film, if you will. Just too much going on, totally different. It just didn't mesh well. Didn't really care about any of the characters, and overall, it was just kind of pointless and didn't really add anything to this type of universe or whatever. The acting, on the other hand, regardless of what I feel about the writing and the story itself, I thought all the actors came to play. Ewan McGregor is great. He's got this type of presence where you just can't take your eyes off of him. Then you have the other actors who are great supporting actors, and especially the actor's name that plays Spud. I forgot his name. I apologize, but he really gave a heartfelt performance. I felt so bad for him. I'm just like, dude, Spud, I wish you just could get better, man. So, and then Franco was menacing that character, so I really kind of felt like that threat from him. I'm just like, whoa, I don't want to mess with that guy. And then, of course, Begbie, he kind of has like this James Bond kind of sly charm to him and stuff. So everyone's got their own distinct personalities, and I think the actors brought those personalities to the big screen once again 20 years later. Didn't seem like they missed a beat. So the acting is not a problem at all. Cinematography, like I said, Boyle uses a lot of interesting dolly shots, a lot of Dutch angles, a lot of fast cuts with his stuff, to where regardless of what you think of the story and whether you think it's weak or not, he always has like a visual aesthetic and palette to his films. They're just interesting to kind of dissect and be like, why would he shoot it that way? Why would he shoot and edit it that way? Like it's more of like just kind of like an observation of this director's work, and be like, yeah, he's still got like a unique flair to him, and when it comes to cinematography and stuff. So yeah, I think it's visually appealing for sure. And there's even a couple shots that actually stood out to where I was like, even me as a person that went through film school and stuff, there was a couple shots where I was like, how'd they do that? So even with the small budget that they had, it was very interesting on some of the shots, and I thought it really kind of encapsulated the kind of like feeling and mood in that scene. So I thought that was kind of brilliant. Editing wise, this is where one of the faults comes in as well. Since I didn't really care about the story or the characters at hand in this go around to Trainspotting, this movie felt longer than it should be. The movie's about an hour and 50 something minutes long, something like that. It's borderline 2 hours. It feels like 5 hours, and that's not a good thing. And I think when you jump around from character to character and you feel kind of rigid like that, it just makes the experience feel longer and stuff. And especially like that's the number one thing. If you don't care about the story or like what's actually happening, it's going to feel twice as long as it should. So I think the editing is actually very dragged out. It just does not have a nice flow to it at all. And the music is pretty good. It does have some nice callbacks to the original and whatnot, and it's fine. So guys, overall, I was disappointed with Trainspotting, or T2 Trainspotting. I think it's one of Boyle's weakest films, even though I'm not going to give it like a really low grade, because I find a lot of good in the way people shoot films and the way people edit films and whatnot. As much as I like some of the shooting style and the editing choices Boyle did make, it, pun intended, it boils down to the actual story and just it being all over the place and making the film seem so much longer than it actually should. And I just overall think this was a pointless remake, or not remake, a pointless kind of continuation of this story. If you liked it, that's fantastic. I thought it was disappointing. I didn't absolutely hate it, but I thought it was extremely disappointing from the cult classic that was the original. I'm going to give T2 Trainspotting a C-. So what did you guys think of this film? Have you even heard of it? Did you like the first one and all that stuff? Comment in that place above my face to let me know. And I know people overseas got to see this film way ahead of time than people here in the States did. So I'd be very curious to see what people thought of it over there as well. So I'm probably wrong. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate and a lot of people yelling in the comments. That's fine. I would like to know why you thought it was great and whatnot. There's a lot of people I know in my circle of friends. Yeah, my circle of friends. I don't have any friends that actually really kind of dug it as well and found it philosophical and meaningful, just like the first one. I guess I missed that connection somewhere. So what about you guys? Let me know down below. And that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee reporting for DallasMoviescreens.com, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.